Have you ever heard a story so unbelievable it sounds like a fairy tale? A story where a dying boy, against all odds, faces down the mightiest warrior of his time. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the real history of a king who refused to give up, even when his own body was betraying him. Imagine 26,000 professional soldiers facing only 500 knights. That's like having more than 50 bad guys for every one good guy. This isn't a fight. It's a guaranteed wipeout, the end of everything. But in just one day on a dusty field called Montgisard, those 500 knights, led by a teenage king whose body was falling apart from leprosy, crushed the biggest army ever put together by the most powerful man in the East. How? How did the impossible happen? This story isn't about battle plans, it's about two men. A legendary leader at the peak of his power and a dying king who wouldn't give in. The year is 1177. The Muslim world has a new hero, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, or Saladin. He has united Egypt and Syria under one flag, building an empire from the Nile River to the Tigris River. But one thorn bothers him, a small kingdom started by European invaders decades ago, the Kingdom of Jerusalem. For Saladin, this isn't just a military target, it's an insult to his religion. It has to be erased from the map, and he knows now is the time to attack. His spies tell him the Christian kingdom is at its weakest. Its king, Amalric, has died. The throne now belongs to a sick child, King Baldwin, who is only 16 years old. But age isn't his real problem. Baldwin has leprosy, a terrible and incurable disease that slowly destroys his body. He can't feel his right hand. His feet are covered in bandages. Many in his own court think it's a punishment from God. They see an unclean king, a leader who can't even hold a sword, let alone rule. They hope he dies soon and even pray for it. But they didn't realize how strong his will was. Underneath his dying flesh, Baldwin's mind was like steel. As Saladin gathers his huge army on the border of Egypt, Baldwin makes a choice that scares all his advisors. The invasion begins. 26,000 men cross the desert. Elite Mamluks, Sudanese light cavalry, Syrian foot soldiers. This is the biggest war machine Holy Land has seen in a generation, an unstoppable flood. Saladin's plan is simple: ignore the forts on the border. Gaza is passed by. He heads straight for Ascalon, the last big stronghold before the open road to Jerusalem. He knows the holy city is defenseless, but Baldwin doesn't stay in Jerusalem. In an act of bravery or madness, he gathers the only soldiers he can find, 500 knights, maybe 3,000 foot soldiers, and rides south straight into danger. He manages to get into Ascalon just before Saladin's first soldiers surround the city. Now he's trapped. The walls of Ascalon are strong, but they can't last against a siege by 26,000 men. It's a death trap. Saladin arrives and sees the situation. The leper king and all of Jerusalem's best fighting force, the 500 knights, are locked in a cage. In his mind, the war is over before it even started. He sends a small group of soldiers to block Ascalon's gates while he takes the main part of his army and keeps going towards Jerusalem. Why wait? The city has no defenders. Victory is complete. Here, Saladin makes the biggest mistake of his life, a mistake born purely from being too proud. He's so sure of his victory that he lets his army lose discipline. He allows his 26,000 men to spread out, giving them permission to loot villages along the way. Ramla Lida, discipline disappears. Soldiers get loaded with stolen goods, units get separated, they become a mob, not an army. They think the enemy is bottled up, scared to death in Ascalon. They don't know they're being watched. Inside Ascalon, Baldwin watches. He sees Saladin's main force ride away, drunk on victory. He sees the cloud of dust split. He sees an opportunity no one else sees, an impossible opening. His noblemen beg him to stay. Going out is suicide. It's better to die behind the walls than to be slaughtered in the open field. But Baldwin isn't listening to his noblemen. He's listening to one man, a famous knight known for his fierce temper and military brilliance, Reynold of Chastellet. And Reynold tells the king there's a way, a crazy way. Meanwhile, Saladin, so confident, has moved his main camp near a place called Montgisard. He doesn't even bother to set up proper defenses. He's planning his grand entrance into Jerusalem. But back in Ascalon, Baldwin's scouts have found something, a gap. The group Saladin left to watch the city is too small, too confident. Baldwin gives the order. Ascalon's gates won't open for surrender, they'll open for attack. The dying king, with only 500 knights, is going to rise from his grave to hunt the world's largest army. On November 25th at dawn, Ascalon's gates burst open. It's not a surrender, it's an explosion. 500 knights, the best of the European nobles in the Holy Land, ride out into the desert light. Saladin's detachment, left behind to watch the city, doesn't even have time to form a line. They are crushed. It's a quick and brutal massacre. The sentries are silenced before they can send a single warning. Baldwin's army now rides at full speed, not towards Jerusalem to defend it. They are on a hunt. They ride north, following the trail of destruction left by Saladin's mob, and at the head of this impossible force rides the king himself. Baldwin is 16 years old. He can barely hold the reins with his left hand. His right hand, numb from leprosy, is bandaged, but it's there. His face is covered by a silver mask, hiding the marks of the disease, but his eyes burn. He knows this isn't just a battle for his kingdom, it's a battle for his existence. As he rides, his men see something more. They carry the kingdom's holiest relic, a piece of the true cross, the wood they believed their savior died on. For these men, this is no longer a military maneuver. It has become a holy war. They are riding towards death or a miracle. There's no middle ground. Meanwhile, Saladin's army is spread out for miles. They are looting Ramla. They are drunk on easy victory. They have broken ranks. Communication between their commanders is non-existent. Saladin himself is near Montgisard. He is confident, relaxed. His scouts have told him Baldwin is trapped. The child king, the leper, what threat could he pose? This arrogance is the poison in war. The moment you think you've won is the most dangerous moment. And Saladin, the tactical genius, has fallen into his own mental trap. He doesn't know that death, riding a pale horse, gallops towards him from the south. Baldwin's scouts are fast. They find the main camp, they find Saladin himself, and they see the truth. The army of 26,000 men isn't an army, it's a chaotic camp. They return to the king. The news is incredible. They are disorganized. They are loaded with loot. Their horses are grazing. They are completely unaware of Baldwin's presence. Baldwin has to make a decision instantly. He could wait, he could try a small skirmish, but he knows time is his enemy. If Saladin realizes the trick, if he manages to regroup his men, it will all be over. The window of opportunity is tiny, perhaps only minutes. The leper king looks at his 500 knights, the Templars, the Hospitallers, the noblemen of his kingdom, men seasoned in 100 battles. They know what he's asking them to do. He's asking them to charge against an enemy 50 times greater in number. He's asking them to charge against Saladin himself. It's suicide. It's absolute madness. Baldwin steps forward with difficulty. He kneels in the sand, bows before the true cross, asking God for victory or a glorious death. His men watch him. They don't see a sick child. They see their king. They see a leader touched by divine will. If he, with his broken body, is willing to ride into hell, how can they not follow him? He stands up, gives the order. It is the afternoon of November 25th. The sun begins to set. The 500 knights lower their visors, straighten their lances, and begin to move, first at a walk, then a trot, then a gallop. Saladin's camp hears the thunder before seeing the lightning. A rumble on the horizon. Is it an earthquake? Then they see them. 500 armored horsemen emerging from a cloud of dust like vengeful ghosts. The setting sun reflects on their helmets, blinding the defenders. Panic is instant. Saladin's soldiers are on foot. Their weapons are stacked. Their commanders are shouting conflicting orders. Saladin's personal guard, the Mamluks, desperately try to form a line. It's too late. Baldwin's charge doesn't hit the sides. It hits the center, directly into the heart of the snake, directly towards Saladin's personal guard. It's a 100-pound steel hammer hitting glass. The Mamluk line breaks, the infantry dissolves. The 500 knights cut through the camp like a hot knife through butter. There's no tactic, it's pure concentrated violence. Terror is contagious. It spreads faster than fire. Saladin's soldiers, laden with loot, throw away their gains. They try to find their weapons, their horses, their units. It's useless. The air fills with screams. They are not battle cries, they are screams of panic. The knights' horses, trained for war, trample everything in their path. Lances pierce, breaking light armor. Saladin watches. The Sultan, the conqueror of Egypt, the unifier of Islam, is paralyzed. He has seen enemy armies before, but never this. This isn't an army, it's the wrath of God. His Mamluk bodyguards, the best warriors in the world, die around him. They create a wall of their own bodies to protect him, but the wall is crumbling, and in the center of the storm is Baldwin. His silver mask is a beacon in the chaos. He is there at the front. The relic of the true cross advances with him. A wooden banner against a sea of steel. Saladin's soldiers don't see 500 men. They see something supernatural. They see a dead king who has risen from his tomb. They see the cross, the symbol they had come to destroy, now destroying them. Saladin knows he is seconds away from death or capture. Capture is worse than death. It would mean the end of his empire, the mockery of his entire legacy. He orders a retreat, but there is no orderly retreat, only flight. He mounts his fastest racing camel, abandons his guard, abandons his army. He flees for his life. It is the decisive moment. The army, 26,000 men, sees their leader, their invincible son, fleeing. If Saladin flees, what hope is left? Discipline breaks completely. It's no longer a battle, it's a human hunt. The 500 knights become 500 butchers. They spread out and chase. Baldwin's infantry, the 3,000 troops who were following behind, now arrive. They arrive not to fight a formed army, but to clean up. The massacre intensifies. How can 500 kill 26,000? They don't. They make 26,000 kill themselves. They flee into the desert, trampling each other. They drown in streams trying to escape. Reynold of Chastellet, the Knight of Wrath, is in his element. He leads the pursuit. There will be no mercy, no prisoners. Baldwin's order is the total annihilation of the invading army. Saladin doesn't look back. He rides day and night. He crosses the Sinai Desert with only a handful of his closest guards. The great conqueror returns to Egypt not with Jerusalem, but with the dust of defeat in his mouth. Back in Montgisard, the sun has set. The land is unrecognizable. The field that was a camp is now an open-air cemetery. The scale of the victory is incomprehensible. Baldwin has won. The cost is terrible. Almost all his knights are wounded. They have lost perhaps 150 men, but the 500 have done the work of 50,000. Saladin's army has simply ceased to exist. Of the 26,000 men who entered the kingdom, it is estimated that fewer than 3,000 managed to return to Egypt. 90% of his force was annihilated. Saladin barely survives. His reputation as invincible is shattered. It will take him years to rebuild his army, years that the dying kingdom of Jerusalem has just bought with blood. And Baldwin, the 16-year-old leper king, the child who wasn't supposed to rule, the dying man who wasn't supposed to fight, returns to Jerusalem not as a survivor, but as a legendary hero. The news of Montgisard hits the known world like thunder. In Cairo, in Damascus, in Baghdad, chroniclers refuse to believe it. It's a rumor, an impossible lie. 26,000 men don't just disappear. Armies aren't annihilated like that. Not by an enemy 50 times smaller, not by a dying king. But the evidence is undeniable. When Saladin finally returns to Cairo, he barely makes it through the city gate. He is sick, gaunt, humiliated. His escort, once thousands, is reduced to a handful of terrified survivors. The truth hits the capital. The invincible has been defeated. For Saladin, this is not a simple military defeat. It is a personal catastrophe. It is a stain on his honor that can only be washed away with blood. He had committed the ultimate sin of power, arrogance. He underestimated the boy. He saw the leprosy, but he didn't see the steel wool burning beneath. He saw his own overwhelming numbers and forgot the iron discipline that had brought him to power. His army, an elite force forged in 1,000 battles, had become a greedy mob of thieves. And when the hammer of 500 knights fell, the mob broke. They fled, they abandoned him. This defeat defines him, changes him forever. The humiliation of Montgisard forges in him a new determination, cold as steel. It is no longer just a war for territory or for faith. Now it is revenge. Saladin silently swears that he will never again underestimate the leper king, and he swears that he will destroy him. No matter the cost, no matter how long it takes, the boy has declared personal war on him. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, the scene is one of ecstasy. The city that expected its imminent annihilation receives its savior. Baldwin, the 16-year-old king, enters through the Jaffa Gate. He does not enter as a sick child. He enters as a conqueror. People cry, shout, throw themselves at his feet. They compare him to the great warrior kings of the Bible, to David, to Joshua. The recovered loot is immense. Saladin's personal baggage train, his treasures, his war horses, his banners. The kingdom on the verge of bankruptcy is suddenly rich. But Baldwin is not blinded by victory. He is wiser than all the men twice his age. He knows exactly what has happened. The Battle of Montgisard was not a divine miracle. It was a surgical execution. It was desperation seizing arrogance. It was a 1-minute window of opportunity that they took with absolute violence. He knows he has bought time, perhaps a decade of survival for his kingdom, but he has not won the war. He has only struck the lion in the face, not killed it. And now the lion is wounded and furious. The leper king understands his harsh reality. The glorious victory on the battlefield does not stop the war being fought within his own body. Leprosy continues its relentless advance. His hands are more numb. His feet require more bandages. Pain is a constant shadow that never leaves him. But now he has an authority that no one in his court dares to question. He uses that authority as a weapon. He immediately rebuilds fortifications, reinforces alliances with neighboring states. He moves with a feverish energy, like a man who knows his time is running out. Because Baldwin knows something that no one else seems to understand. He knows his time is short, and he knows with absolute certainty that Saladin will return. The clash of Montgisard was not the end of the story. It was the prologue. It was the beginning of the true duel, the tactical genius of the East against the indomitable will of the West. Saladin begins to rebuild. He calls for new recruits from Syria, from Mesopotamia. His war machine starts up again, but this time with cold precision, without arrogance, without mercy. And Baldwin, the hero king, watches from the walls of Jerusalem, waits, governs, and prepares. He knows the next battle will be different. Saladin no longer sees him as a child. He sees him as his equal, as his true and perhaps only enemy. The calm that follows the storm is often more terrifying than the storm itself. For 2 years, the front remains silent, but it is not a silence of peace. It is the silence of a predator licking its wounds, and it watches. Saladin is in Damascus. He has rebuilt his army, but he has rebuilt something more important, his mind. He has purged arrogance. He has studied every move, every rumor about the leper king. He no longer sees a child. He sees a tactical genius wrapped in a dying body. And Baldwin in Jerusalem feels that gaze upon him. Every day that passes, the disease steals something new from him. A little more sensation in his leg, the sight in his left eye blurs. The time he gained at Montgisard now runs against him. The kingdom of Jerusalem breathes a sigh of relief. They believe the danger has passed. His noblemen relax. They begin to scheme again, to fight for power, to look beyond their sick king. Who will inherit the throne? The court fills with poisonous whispers, but Baldwin does not rest. He knows that peace is an illusion. He knows that Saladin is not waiting, he is planning. And a king who only reacts is a dead king. So Baldwin decides to do the unthinkable, attack first not with an army but with stones. He orders the construction of a new fortress, a formidable castle. But the location is a declaration of war. At Jacob's Ford, a vital crossing of the Jordan River. This castle, called Chastellet, is not defensive. It is a dagger pointing at the heart of Saladin's empire. It controls the main road between Damascus and Egypt. It cuts his supply lines. It is a strategic insult. It is Baldwin saying, "I'm still here." The news reaches Saladin. It is a slap in the face. The leper king, instead of hiding behind his walls, is building a base of operations in Saladin's backyard. He is provoking him, challenging him to come out and fight on his terms. Saladin, the diplomat, tries to avoid conflict. He respects Baldwin's skill. He sends messengers, offers an astronomical sum, 60,000 gold dinars, a fortune, just to stop building. Baldwin refuses. It's not about the money, it's about control. The castle continues to grow, stone by stone, a monument to his defiance. The Templars move into the fortress, sharpening their swords. Saladin is furious. He feels the trap. Baldwin is forcing him to fight on ground that the Christian king has chosen. He raises the offer, 100,000 dinars, enough to finance the entire kingdom for a year. Baldwin refuses again. The message is clear. The truce is over. The duel resumes. Saladin has no other choice. If he allows that castle to be completed, he will look weak. He has been humiliated at Montgisard. He cannot be humiliated again at Jacob's Ford. He gathers his new army. This is not the arrogant horde of Montgisard. It is a disciplined, fast force motivated by revenge. In the year 1179, Saladin marches on Jacob's Ford. The rematch has begun. Baldwin does not wait behind the walls. As soon as he hears the news, he gathers his knights, the Templars, the Hospitallers, and rides. He rides to meet Saladin once more. He heads to Tiberias, gathering more troops. He is confident. He has beaten Saladin before. He has broken his lines. He knows he can do it again. But the Saladin who awaits him is not the same man. Saladin, seeing Baldwin's army approach, fakes a partial retreat. He separates his forces. It is bait that Baldwin, perhaps for the first time, takes. In a field called Marj Ayan, the Christian knights, eager to repeat the glory of Montgisard, see an apparent weakness. The Templars charge. They believe they are attacking an exposed flank, but they are charging into the center of a pincer movement. Saladin's forces, hidden in the hills, fall on them from 3 sides. It is a perfect ambush. The Templars are surrounded. Baldwin's cavalry is shattered. It is not a battle, it is a tactical execution. The Christian army disintegrates. Baldwin fights with the fury of a trapped lion, but it is useless. His horse is killed, he falls to the ground. His bodyguards drag him away, saving him from capture by mere seconds. The leper king flees. The hero of Montgisard is defeated. Dozens of his best knights are captured, including the Grand Master of the Templars. The impossible victory has been avenged. Saladin has won. He has returned the humiliation. He has shown that Montgisard was a fluke, a mistake. He has shown that he has learned, and now, with Baldwin's army broken, he turns his eyes again to the fortress that started it all, to Chastellet. The castle stands alone. The king who was coming to save it has fled. The defenders watch in horror as Saladin's victorious army returns. Now there is no hope. The defeat at Marj-Ayan is not the end, it is the prelude. Baldwin's army is broken, fleeing north, demoralized, but the fortress, the cause of everything, still stands. Chastellet, the symbol of Baldwin's arrogance. Now it is isolated, it is defenseless. Saladin, fresh from his victory, turns his army. Every soldier, every siege engineer, every catapult now has a single objective: to erase that castle from the map. Inside the walls, the Templars watch. They saw the battle in the distance. They saw their army dissolve like smoke. They saw the king's banners flee. They know what it means. No one is coming. There is no rescue. They are alone. They are the sacrificed men on the king's chessboard, but they are Templars. They don't know how to surrender. They reinforce the gates. They prepare the boiling oil. They sharpen their swords for a last, hopeless stand. They are defending a tomb. Miles away, Baldwin is taken to safe castle. His body is bruised from the fall, but it is his pride that is shattered. He has failed. His tactics, his confidence, everything failed. He has fallen into Saladin's trap like a novice. He has lost his best men, captured in the field, and now he knows that the men in Chastellet, the men he put there, are going to die, and he can do absolutely nothing to stop it. It is an agony worse than leprosy. He watches from a distance, helpless, as smoke begins to rise from Jacob's Ford. The siege begins on August 24th. It is not a patient blockade. It is a total and furious assault. Saladin does not want them to surrender. He wants to annihilate them. 8 giant catapults pound the walls day and night without ceasing. The air is filled with the sound of breaking stone. The defenders fight with the strength of desperation. They repair the breaches under a rain of arrows. They launch Greek fire onto the siege engines. For 5 days, the castle resists. It is a hell of noise, dust, and blood. The Templars repel assault after assault, but the walls are cracking and Saladin is impatient. Every day that fortress resists is an insult. He orders his engineers to dig. Specialized miners begin to tunnel under the main tower. They are not going to knock down the wall from above. They are going to blow up the fortress from its foundations. They dig day and night, shoring up the tunnels with wooden beams. When they are ready, they fill the underground passages with firewood, sulfur, and pitch and set it on fire. The heat is unbearable. The wooden beams supporting the tunnels begin to burn. The defenders in the tower feel the ground warming beneath their feet. They don't understand what is happening. Then the beams collapse, the earth gives way. The main tower, the heart of the fortress, collapses upon itself with a deafening roar. A cloud of dust and stone covers everything. The wall has opened. Saladin's army does not wait for the dust to settle. Thousands of soldiers charge through the breach, screaming. What follows is not a battle, it is a slaughter. The surviving Templars fight in the ruins, fight in every room on every broken staircase, but they are outnumbered. They are hunted down one by one. Saladin has won. He has taken the fortress in less than a week, but his revenge is not over. Of the hundreds of defenders, 700 knights and soldiers are executed on the spot. The survivors, perhaps 800 more, are chained and sent to the slave markets of Damascus. The castle, Baldwin's pride, is systematically dismantled, stone by stone, until nothing remains. Saladin leaves no trace. He erases Baldwin's insult from the face of the earth. The news reaches Baldwin. Military defeat is one thing, this is different. 700 of his best men massacred. His fortress turned to dust. The duel has changed. Blood now demands more blood. Defeat is a poison. It seeps into the bones. Baldwin, brought back to Jerusalem, is not just a defeated king. He is a man facing the hardest truth. His genius, his will, are no longer enough. Saladin has evolved. The man who fled from Montgisard is dead. The man who took Chastellet is a cold, patient, and methodical strategist. He has learned from the boy, and now the master has taught his student a lesson. Baldwin withdraws, the court sees him crumble. The disease, as if echoing the weakness of his spirit, advances with terrifying speed. The leper king is now almost blind. The flesh of his face has sunken. His hands are useless claws. He can no longer hold a pen, much less a sword. He has become a prisoner within an armor of dead flesh. And when the king is weak, the rats play. The court divides. The whispers that followed his coronation now turn into open shouts. Who will rule? Who will inherit this valiant kingdom? The peace faction, the local barons who preferred diplomacy with Saladin, loses ground. The war faction, newcomers from Europe, hungry for glory and land, see an opportunity. Their leader is a man named Guy of Lusignan, tall, handsome, but empty. A man who has come to the Holy Land fleeing disgrace, but he has an advantage. He has captured the heart of the king's sister, Sibylla. Sibylla, the heir to the throne, only sees the hero she wants to see. She ignores her brother's warnings. Baldwin despises Guy. He sees the hollow ambition in his eyes. He knows Guy is the kind of man who will lose everything. He is a fool, Baldwin warns his sister. He will drag the crown through the mud. But she does not listen. Love or ambition blinds her. The kingdom is rotting from within. While Baldwin fights his own flesh, his court fights for the spoils of his throne. It is a silent civil war. And Saladin watches. He does not attack Jerusalem. He does not need to. The kingdom is committing suicide. Instead, he applies constant pressure, a war of 1,000 cuts. Year after year, Saladin's raids become bolder. They are no longer just for scouting. They are to destroy the kingdom's economy. His horse archers, swift as the wind, cross the Jordan at dawn, burning farms, setting wheat fields on fire just before harvest, slaughtering livestock, taking slaves. They do not seek battle, they seek terror. Christian peasants flee their lands, taking refuge in overcrowded cities. Food begins to run short, trade stops. The gold won at Montgisard evaporates, paying mercenaries who cannot stop the phantom raids. Saladin is strangling the kingdom. He is showing the people that the leper king, the blind hero, can no longer protect them. And then one of Baldwin's barons gives Saladin the perfect excuse. Reynold of Chastellet, the man of Montgisard, the vicious knight. He is now the lord of Kerak, an impregnable fortress in the desert. Reynold understands nothing of diplomacy. He only understands violence. Ignoring a truce signed by Baldwin himself, Reynold attacks a massive trade caravan, a caravan that, according to rumors, was traveling under Saladin's personal protection. Reynold massacres the guards and takes immense loot. It is a direct violation of the treaty. It is a personal insult to Saladin. Saladin demands justice. He sends ambassadors to Jerusalem. Return the loot, hand over Reynold. Baldwin is trapped. He knows Reynold is to blame, but he cannot hand over one of his most powerful barons. It would be seen as the final act of a weak king. Baldwin offers compensation, gold, but he does not hand over Reynold. For Saladin, this is the final answer. Diplomacy has failed. The leper king no longer controls his own men. The kingdom is in chaos. The year is 1183. Saladin swears a sacred oath. He will not rest until Reynold of Chastellet is dead, and he will kill him with his own hands. He gathers the largest army he has ever commanded. This time there is no arrogance, no haste. This is the final war. His target, Kerak, Reynold's fortress. The siege of Kerak begins. It is a personal matter. It is Saladin's revenge, cold and calculated. 8 giant catapults pound the walls day and night. The news reaches Jerusalem during a celebration, the wedding of Baldwin's younger sister. The court is feasting, trying to ignore the end of the world. When the messenger from Kerak arrives, panic seizes the hall. Saladin's army is unstoppable. Reynold is trapped. If Kerak falls, the road to Jerusalem is open. The kingdom is finished. All eyes turn to Baldwin. The king lies in his chamber, barely breathing. The disease has consumed him. He is a skeleton covered in sores, blind, paralyzed. He can barely speak. His advisors, Guy of Lusignan among them, tell him it's the end. Name a regent, Majesty. There is nothing you can do. You are dying. Baldwin listens. He hears the panic. He hears the surrender in their voices. He feels Guy's ambition waiting for him to die. Something in him refuses. He will not die in a bed while his kingdom burns. He will not give Saladin that victory. With a voice that is barely a whisper, he gives the most shocking order of his life. Prepare the army. We march. The court believes he has gone mad. Majesty, says his chamberlain, you cannot even sit up. How will you lead an army? Baldwin looks into the darkness. If I cannot ride, he says, then carry me. He orders a litter to be built, a campaign bed reinforced with steel to be carried on the shoulders of his most loyal guards, and at the front the royal standard will be raised. The barons are stunned. They will fight for a living corpse, but the news spreads through Jerusalem. The king, the leper king, the hero of Montgisard, the one who refused to die, is going to war. One last time, people take to the streets. Soldiers, demoralized for months, feel a surge of something they had forgotten, inspiration. If their king, suffering a hell on earth, can march, how can they stay behind? The army gathers. Thousands of men march for their dying king. The procession leaves Jerusalem. It is not a war march, it is a funeral pilgrimage. At the head, carried high, is the litter. Inside lies Baldwin, blind, paralyzed, but present. He leads from his deathbed. The march is an agony. They cross the desert, the dust, the heat. Every jolt is torture for the king's broken body, but he does not stop. The news reaches Saladin's camp in Kerak. His scouts inform him the Christian army is approaching. Saladin asks, who leads them? Guy of Lusignan. The scout hesitates. No, my lord, it is the king, the leper. Saladin does not understand. On horseback. No, my lord, they are carrying him. They are carrying him to battle in his bed. A silence falls over the sultan's tent. Saladin, the most powerful man in the world, faces something his military logic cannot process. How do you fight a man who is already dead? How do you defeat a ghost? He respects Baldwin. He respects him more than any other enemy. This display of will is superhuman. It is terrifying. Saladin's army, which has been pounding the walls of Kerak, hears the rumors. The leper king is coming, the ghost king. Morale falters. They have heard the stories of Montgisard. Saladin makes a decision. It is not out of fear, it is out of respect, and it is out of strategy. Fighting an army led by a living martyr is bad tactics. If he wins, he has simply killed a dying man. If he loses, the humiliation will be 1,000 times worse than Montgisard. He orders the siege to be lifted. When Baldwin's army reaches the hills above Kerak, they see something impossible. Saladin's army, massive and undefeated, is retreating. The catapults are being dismantled. The great invasion is dissolving. Baldwin has won again. He has not fired a single arrow. He has not drawn a single sword. He has defeated Saladin's largest army simply by appearing. His will was a stronger weapon than any catapult. He is carried in triumph to the fortress of Kerak. Reynold of Chastellet, the man who caused the war, receives him. He sees the king in the litter and perhaps for the first time feels something akin to shame and awe. Baldwin is carried back to Jerusalem. It is his last victory. The journey has shattered him. It has cost him the last grams of life he had left, but he has saved his kingdom. Saladin retreats to Damascus. He knows with absolute certainty that he will never again face Baldwin. The duel is over. Now he just has to wait. The return to Jerusalem is not a victory parade. It is a funeral procession. The hero of Kerak is alive, but life has left him. Baldwin has won his last battle, not against Saladin, but against his own body. He has forced it to move, to lead, to exist beyond the limits of nature. But that final effort has burned what was left of the candle. He is carried to his bed, and this time the king knows he will not rise again. Blindness is total. Pain is his only constant companion, and the kingdom he saved by pure will once again smells death in the air. The rats in the court begin to move again. Baldwin has one last task, the most important. He must protect the kingdom from itself. He must stop Guy of Lusignan, the inept regent, the man he knows will destroy everything. He summons his barons to his deathbed. His voice is barely the whisper of dry paper. With his last breath of authority, he strips Guy of the regency. He declares that the man who married his sister is unworthy to lead. But who then? Sibylla, his sister, is tainted by her blind loyalty to Guy. So Baldwin looks beyond to Sibylla's son from a previous marriage, a child. His nephew Baldwin V. He orders the child to be crowned immediately. In a solemn ceremony, the dying king uses his last strength to crown a new king, a 5-year-old child. It is his last desperate act, an attempt to bypass the rotten generation around him. In March 1185, Baldwin IV, the leper king, the hero of Montgisard, the ghost of Kerak, finally dies. He is 24 years old. He has ruled for 11 years, half his life, in constant war against the greatest empire in the world and against his own blood. The kingdom stops, the lion has fallen, and even his greatest enemy, Saladin, upon hearing the news in Damascus, observes a moment of respectful silence. The great duel is over. The chessboard is finally clear. Baldwin's fragile plan crumbles almost immediately. The kingdom does not need a 5-year-old child on the throne. It needs a warrior, or at least it believes it does. A year after Baldwin's death, the child King Baldwin V conveniently dies. The causes are never clarified. Poison is an easy whisper in the halls of power. The child's death is the opportunity Guy and Sibylla were waiting for. Before the barons can react, they stage a coup. Sibylla secures the throne, and in an act of open defiance, she crowns Guy of Lusignan as her king consort. The man Baldwin despised, the fool, the ambitious, the inept, the man the leper king had banished from power. Now he is the king of Jerusalem, and Guy's first act is to unleash the rabid dog. He returns full power and his full trust to Reynold of Chastellet, the man who started the last war. Reynold, feeling untouchable under a weak king whom he can manipulate, commits his final act of madness. Ignoring all truces, breaking every oath, he attacks the richest trade caravan that has ever crossed the desert, a caravan traveling from Cairo to Damascus. It is not just loot. The reports are clear. Saladin's own sister was traveling in that caravan. The news hits Damascus like lightning. This is not politics, it is not war, it is a sacrilege. It is a direct attack on Saladin's family and honor. The Sultan has been patient. He has respected the truce. He has respected Baldwin's genius, but Baldwin is dead and fools are in charge. Saladin swears on the Quran that the kingdom will fall and that Reynold of Chastellet will die by his own hand. This time there is no turning back. He calls for jihad, total holy war. From every corner of his empire, from Egypt to Syria and Mesopotamia, soldiers march. It is the largest army the Middle East has ever seen. It is not to besiege a fortress. It is to erase Jerusalem from the map. In the summer of 1187, in a place called the Horns of Hattin, the new King Guy of Lusignan and his advisor Reynold lead the entire army of the kingdom. Every night, every foot soldier carries the true cross. Guy of Lusignan, a commander without imagination, falls into Saladin's simplest trap. Saladin allows him to march his entire army through the desert in the middle of July without water. Then he simply blocks the road to the wells of Lake Tiberias. The Christian army, armored, dying of thirst, is surrounded. Saladin sets fire to the dry grass around them. The Battle of Hattin is not a battle, it is an execution. The kingdom's army, trapped between fire and thirst, is annihilated in a matter of hours. The true cross, the relic that Baldwin carried to impossible victory at Montgisard, is captured. The kingdom of Jerusalem has died in one day. Guy of Lusignan and Reynold of Chastellet are captured alive and taken to Saladin's personal tent. The Sultan, honoring the laws of hospitality, offers iced water to Guy, the captured king. Guy drinks and, trembling, passes the cup to Reynold. Saladin stops his hand. His voice is calm, cold as steel. "To that man," he says, "I offered no water." The Sultan rises, draws his own scimitar, and before his victorious army fulfills the oath made years ago. He beheads Reynold of Chastellet with his own hands. The road to Jerusalem is open. The holy city, now defenseless, surrenders weeks later. The impossible feat of Montgisard, the years of pain, the steel will of the leper king who, blind and paralyzed, defeated Saladin from his deathbed. Everything was undone. Everything was lost, not by Saladin's military genius, but by the absolute stupidity of men who were not worthy to inherit the crown of a giant.